Hi, welcome to another Monel Show podcast. Welcome to have you here today. Look, this is going to be a very special one with our special guest. We want to welcome today retired General Ron Lewis.
Thanks, Mario. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Appreciate
accepting to be in on our show today.
Absolutely.
General Ron Lewis. Tell us about Ron Lewis.
Ron Lewis. First off, thank you, Monel, to you, to your team, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Putting together content and information for the community.
Sure.
that can be helpful. So Ron Lewis, young kid from Chicago, who had great parents and a great upbringing. I'm blaming any success that I've had on my folks and the way that they brought us up. One of 6 kids. I guess as much in the middle as you can be of 6, right?
Yeah.
I've got an older brother, 2 older sisters, and then 2 younger brothers behind me. We essentially grew up on the south side of Chicago.
Wow.
My dad was in the Air Force for a while. I know you mentioned Air Force. My dad was an enlisted guy in the Air Force for 13 years. Excuse me. He did a little bit in Africa, Oklahoma. He was stationed at Pease Air Force Base up in New Hampshire.
Oh.
That's where I was born.
Right.
So I was actually born in Kittery, Maine. My dad was at Pease Air Force Base. He had to go across the border into Maine. So that's where I was born. My sister and I were born there in Maine, and then I moved to Chicago when I was 2, basically. So that's all I know.
Wow.
Grew up on the south side, southwest side. I think we had a typical good lower middle class upbringing. That's how I would characterize it. Mom and dad both worked 2 jobs, and they raised us well. They put us in scouting. We did sports. Went to church every Sunday. I taught Sunday school when I was young. Disciplined family. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Get your chores done. Consequences if you don't. Neighbors knew who we were. I mean, that way that you can imagine you're supposed to grow up in America. Hey, mom screaming your voice out when the lights come on, and you better be within earshot. So I mean, that was our upbringing, and my folks rewarded achievement. Brothers and sisters did well ahead of us, so that became the expectation to do well in school, to do well in sports, to National Honor Society, and graduating high school young, and all those kinds of things became kind of the way the Lewis household went. I appreciate my older brothers and sisters. I just had a birthday recently. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But we were having a Zoom session the other day, and I was thanking my older brothers and sisters for their example. Right? One's got a doctorate, I got a lawyer, businessman, that kind of thing. So I blame my mom and dad for that. I really do. Mom, rest in peace, left us in 2017 at age 80. My dad will be 86 this year, and he still thinks he's 60 or something. He's still out there
20.
working on the house and playing cards and shooting pool and bowling, and so that's my background. That's what I remember. That's any success that I've had in life. It's because of my parents. My mom and dad were married 58 years when my mom passed in 2017, and I appreciate the environment that they set for us, and I appreciate the example that they set for us. No ceilings. You can be whatever you want to be. Work hard. So I appreciate that. I really do.
Now, growing up in Southside Chicago, there's so many other things you could have done.
Yep.
But you decided to go to the military. Why? Why not college? Why not getting a job?
Good question. Lots of factors in that, to be honest with you. One economic factor, quite frankly, was we just talked about the big family. We just talked about 6 kids.
Right. Yeah.
When I was in high school, both of my sisters were in college, and then my 2 little brothers were behind me. So my folks were, dealing with, paying for and supporting both of my sisters in college at the same time while I was in high school, and then I get the 2 little ones behind me. So there's an economic part of the decision, quite frankly. But I left Chicago and I went to West Point. Not far from where you lived in New York. So I went to the academy. I'm glad I did that. I'd do it again tomorrow. But the circumstances that got me into West Point were a couple of things. One, in my high school, I went to Mendel Catholic Prep. I went to one of the Chicago Catholic League schools. Really good school. Happy with the education we got there. One day in my junior year, there were a couple of West Point cadets from Chicago that came to our school. We didn't have a junior ROTC program. It's a Catholic prep school, prepping people to go to college. We didn't have a military program in my high school. But these cadets were out in the hallway. I went and talked with them.
You just have a conversation with them?
Just had a conversation with them. Where are you from? The uniforms are a little foreign. Yeah, looking sharp. Yeah. So I had a conversation with them, went back home and talked to my dad. I talked to my uncle, Gus. My dad and my uncle were running buddies in the Air Force.
Nice.
That's how he met my mom. Nice. Talked to them about the academy and what does that mean. And we talked about Patton and MacArthur and Eisenhower, and we talked about the leadership training that you get at the academy. And quite frankly, I did pretty well in high school. I was number one in my high school for 3 years. Ended up graduating number 3. My senior year, working and messing around. So
you in trouble. High school life.
That was another reason to maybe go to the academy also,
right.
To have some more discipline. But anyway, I did well in high school. I loved math and engineering. I wanted to be an engineer. I was in the minority introduction to engineering program in the Chicago area, which was great. We did some in high school. We did some introduction to engineering. We went to Illinois Institute of Technology. We went down to the University of Illinois. Good introductory program for minorities that were interested in engineering. And West Point's one of the top engineering schools in the whole nation also. So started doing a little bit of research on the academy, talked to my folks, specifically my dad and my uncle, went out to the academy for a visit. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do.
So you joined West Point, and what year was that?
I was at the academy from 1983 to 1987.
How was it? Because I grew up there near West Point.
Sure.
I'm familiar with the environment, and I go over there and visit. Very impressive. One of the top elite military schools in the country.
The first. Established in 1802. I love the Naval Academy and Air Force and VMI and all the rest. I love all those places.
How was life on
it was,
West Point?
It's difficult. It's supposed to be, right? I mean,
military men saying it's difficult.
It is. The academy is a difficult path to get through. The friends that I have today, many of my best friends, we went through that experience together. Best man at my wedding, and flight school, stick buddies, and all that kind of stuff. So, the academy is a tough place. It's tough academically. You've got the top people. I got accepted at Harvard. I got accepted at Northwestern, and I got accepted at the academy. I went to the academy again. Break from my folks paying, and that was the right environment for me. So you've got top tier academics, and you're taking a lot of credit hours at the same time. So academically it's tough. I majored in mechanical engineering. Everyone gets some engineering, some art, some science. Everyone gets the base education, and then you can major in something. So I majored in mechanical engineering.
Well, you say it was challenging. It was difficult. How did you survive? How did you make it?
Well, so academically it was tough. Throw on top of that all of the military training, because they're producing leaders, right? They're producing the nation's leaders to take America's sons and daughters to combat. That's what they're producing. So all of the military and leadership training and the summers spent doing military training, going to airborne school or doing field training. It's about learning how to follow first. So that first year, the plebe year, especially way back when we went, everyone says it was tougher when they went.
Right.
Now it's easy. But that plebe year is about making you learn how to follow before you can lead. So you've got tons of jobs and tasks and requirements and knowledge and all these on top of all of the education that you're doing and on top of all the military training. So the fourth class system or plebe system is tough. The whole overall 4 years, I think I got 17 days off that first summer. So from between freshman year and sophomore year, my summer break was like 17 days off, and then you're back at the academy going through training. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge to get in. Once you're there, they do want to keep you though. Right. So they the system is there to try to help you stay because they've invested in you now. So how do you get through it? Back to your question, how do you get through it? Organization, responsibility, taking responsibility, good support system back home, faith also. But back there we were writing letters, right?
Was there a time that you wanted to quit?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You're like, forget this, I'm out.
The first time that my folks came to see me during basic training, right? So before you even start the academic year, you go through basic training at West Point that summer of '83. Right. My folks came up to see me while I was in basic training, and I really, really, really wanted to jump back in the van with them and drive back to Chicago. I really did. You start missing. Right. Both my brothers and sisters all went to school locally. Right. University of Illinois, Bradley, Northwestern, University of Dayton. They all kind of stayed in the Midwest area and could get back home. You're all the way out there in New York, and you're not getting a chance to come home. You're not really. There were no cell phones. There's no internet, there's no FaceTime and all that kind of stuff.
Back
but
then,
getting
in the 80s.
Some, right. Back in the old school days. But you are getting some letters and.
Gotta wait for the postman to come.
There were many. That I specifically remember that time though.
But what made you say no, or what happened? That you said I'm gonna keep going with this.
Well, we don't quit. That's not really part of our DNA as family dynamics, and nothing worth having comes easy at all. Just good lessons learned from my folks, and you got to keep your eye on the prize. Having a West Point education, a degree from the academy, wearing the ring, and the responsibilities that and that connection and long gray line that comes with that. Nothing worth having comes easy, and.
Any moments at West Point that stuck to you, said, wow, that was the time that I learned my greatest lesson, or was the biggest failure of my life?
Lots of them. I still don't have a lot of body fat on me right now, even at mid-50s or whatever. And survival swimming at the academy was a challenge. We'd be in an 8-foot pool, and you've got your military gear on, or you've got your rucksack on and boots and all of that, and they're training you how to create a raft, a float out of your military pants, right? So you're in the pool, get a lot of oxygen, get a lot of air in, float, take off your boots, let them fall to the bottom of the whatever ocean, lake, whatever you're in. Take your pants off, your military bottoms off, tie a knot in each leg. You throw it over your head. You get some air inside of those pant legs, and now you've created a flotation device. You can stay afloat. Well, Lewis didn't float, so I would be sitting on the bottom of the pool. 8 foot of water. I'd be sitting on the bottom of the pool, taking off my boots, and jump back up, get some air. Hey, let's get some more air in your lungs. You can float. Everybody floats. Okay. Bottom of the pool. So anyway, graduating, getting through plebe survival swimming, and the graduation exercises, you're in a big Olympic 20-foot pool, swimming across and taking your gear off and all of that after you've dropped off of a 10-meter board. When I passed that and got out of survival, I got a mechanical engineering degree. The toughest thing I did at the academy probably was survival swimming, and I can remember going to get on the payphone and calling my mom after I got through after I got through that piece. So anyway, things like that stick out to you, right. And you prove to yourself that no matter what it is, you actually can overcome and achieve. It may be, for some people, it may be shooting a weapon straight. It may be the academics are so tough, or everyone's got to do athletics, so that may be a challenge for some people. So the idea though is to overcome, to
Was
build,
it always
self-confidence.
Was it always about overcoming obstacles from the military training or anything else, solving problems? I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, the academy's about problem solving. It's about learning past problem sets, be they, I mean, obviously military, past problem sets, and how did our leaders deal with those? What were the steps that they took so that you're putting that information, you're putting that in your rucksack that you can draw from. The academy puts you in confrontation spots. There are some people there that have never been in a fight in their lives, but you have to take boxing and you have to take wrestling. So why is that? Maybe another thing that you have to overcome. A little bit of personal courage and fear and dealing with conflict or confrontation. So the program is designed to create the best leaders, and the program gets modified and updated, based on the most current studies out there on what will produce the best leaders.
Now, you graduated at West Point.
Yep.
What was the next step?
After I graduated, I got commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Army. I chose aviation as my branch, and happy with that choice. Love flying helicopters. So right after I left the academy, I went to flight school down in Fort Rucker, Alabama. And
how was that?
Loved it. One, we were kind of out of jail. We're out of the academy. We're kind of got some freedom now, and trying to make up for our missed opportunities of not going to a regular college. So we, all of us young knuckleheads down there at Fort Rucker were, we're having a good time, kind of catching up. Loved learning how to fly. That was that minority introduction to engineering program that I talked about in Chicago.
Right.
First time I ever flew was as part of that program. They let us fly a little Cessna plane down at University of Illinois, which was cool. But to actually go become a pilot, go become an attack helicopter pilot on top of that was outstanding. Loved it.
Tell us about your military life. How was it? How did you, from the helicopter school, flying school, now you're on the reality out there in the battle zone? What was the first experience look like?
So you leave the academy, you go to flight school and officer basic training, and then you go out to your first assignment. And my first assignment was in Germany. I was in Germany from 1988 to 1991. Got a chance to see the wall come down in '89. But you start off as a leader of a platoon, small element, right? So I had 7 Cobra helicopters, and I had, maybe 25 people inside of the platoon, and I'm in charge. I'm the second lieutenant, and all of those leadership lessons that you got from the academy. What does it mean to be in charge of these millions of dollars of equipment, these people? And to have a real mission in front of you. At that point, we were still looking across at the Soviet Union and getting prepared for them if they ever came across through the Fulda Gap and re-attacked Germany. At that point, we were still East and West Germany. So real mission, real enemy you're confronting, and real job of leading these men and women and training them up and taking care of them and taking care of the millions of dollars of equipment. And that's what it means. That's what it means to be in charge. When you fast forward through 30 years in the Army to what I'm doing now with my company, leadership to me is the number one factor for any successful organization, company, unit. It's leadership. And
from being at the in Germany base, I guess, the lessons of leadership you learned. What were some of them that really helped you in your first assignment?
Inclusivity. There's not a lot of, things have starting to get better and grow and change or whatever, but there's just not a lot of minorities in Army aviation. There's not a lot of pilots. There's not a lot of crew chiefs, and there's not a lot of people inside of aviation. So, how do you, as a leader, lead everyone, all of America's sons and daughters, right? I mean, black, white, brown, whatever. How do you do that? The importance of competence. You come out of flight school and you know how to fly, but you're leading a group of warrant officers, many of which, my instructor pilot, Russ Ashley, flew in Vietnam. I mean, he's a Vietnam guy. He'd been flying that Cobra forever, right? So he's got thousands of hours. I've got a few hundred hours just coming out of flight school. All the other warrant officers, with the exception of one or two, have got a ton more experience than I had. So how do you do that, their leader? How do you gain people's respect? How do you demonstrate your competence? How do you, how are you in charge, yet you're not the most experienced person? And how do you build a team? So those things were formed very early, and how do you get your crew chiefs, the enlisted guys, to feel like they're part of the team? They don't go fly in that Cobra. Only two of you go get in the aircraft and go fly. But all the rest of the platoon is a critical member. So team of teams. How do you make sure that these soldiers that don't fly understand how important they are? So those are some of the beginning lessons of leadership and team building.
No. And how old were you then?
How old was I? You're gonna make me do some math. What, 23 through 26?
Early 20s?
23 to 26, something like that.
In your 20s?
Yeah. I was in my 20s.
And you were in charge of a few dozens, man, and Cobra
Yeah,
helicopters
and millions of dollars of equipment. I mean, our aircraft are not inexpensive, and all the parts associated with it.
And you moved to your next assignment. What assignment was the most difficult, challenging one for you?
I would say, several, but ultimately leading in combat. Leading in combat is probably the most challenging time. Everything I did up to becoming a battalion commander. So I was talking about being a platoon leader with just seven aircraft. As a battalion commander, I had 48 aircraft, 24 Apaches and 24 Scouts, and about 600 guys. And then as a brigade commander, I had like 270 aircraft and 5,000 people. And then even more than that as a general over in combat. But my point is this: all the assignments leading up to where you get to command those size units in combat, all of the right kinds of jobs to gain the experience, to learn, living out in the desert of California, training and gaining experience, doing the right kinds of jobs, all set you up to be able to do combat the right way. Again, now my experience at the beginning of my life was military, so I can talk to that. Corporate-wise, everyone's got their challenges. So what are you doing as a corporate leader to gain experience, to put the right, to take the right kinds of jobs so that when the crises happen in your business, you're best prepared to deal with those. Right. So I guess I brought one of my friends in from outside. Yeah. So my jobs and career leading up to that point set me up for that. And then, I've lost people in combat. Toughest days of my life was, losing pilots, losing soldiers in combat. And, you've got to, it makes you resilient. It makes you have guardrails. What do you think about, when you have losses? Right. What are the things that you think about? And, it makes you deal with your religion, and people are watching you. How does the boss handle that? How does he or she grieve, recover, still lead us, still get us back up? Because you can't stay down. I mean, the enemy
Right.
doesn't give you the choice of doing that. So.
Now, I've watched, I'm a big fan of military-style movies because I like the principles, preparations,
Sure.
and overcoming obstacles. And then now you out of militaries.
Yep.
And thank you so much for your service.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate that.
Do it again tomorrow.
Thank you for protecting America.
Absolutely.
Now you have your private firm.
I do.
Training, mentoring, coaching corporate American leaders.
That's right.
How do you transfer that knowledge from military now into business, corporate leadership?
I think it goes back to the premise, Manel, that leadership is the most important concept, principle for any successful organization, company, business. What is leadership? Leadership to me is the ability to inspire, motivate, direct a group to achieve a common agreed upon objective. Okay, so inside of the military, that's pretty clear what we have to do, but it's inspiration, motivation, directing those soldiers, that group, to achieve that objective. Well, that's what you got to do as a business leader, right? I mean, that's what you have to do as a business leader: inspire, direct, motivate your company, a couple of people, nonprofit or whatever it is, to achieve the agreed upon objectives, which are monetary, or in a nonprofit world, you're solving a problem or whatever. So it goes back to those business leaders which we coach. And I think there's a direct translation. Now, I'll be honest with you, I did some learning, as I got out, and right before I got out, took some financial management courses. I have done some courses on business leaders, leading change. I'm a big John Carter fan on leading change. I'm sure you are also. I know what your degree's in. Yes. So I've done some pieces to help me make the translation make sense to the corporate world. But it's leadership. It is it's team building. It's what are the traits that make people follow you? I know in the Army, right. People will say, well, okay, Ron, you're the leader in the Army and you're wearing the rank. Of course people are going to follow you. Well, that's not true. That's not true. That's a low form. If people just follow you out of fear or fear of consequences or because you have the rank on, then you haven't done your job as a leader. You have got to motivate people. You want teams to not want to let the team down, not want to let you down as a leader, not because they're scared that you're going to take their rank from them or something like that. So those traits that I have found to be successful, I try to talk to CEOs and chief executive officers and C-suites and business leaders about those traits. Empathy. Right. Do you have the ability to put yourself in your subordinates' shoes? Nobody cares how much you know. You're the smartest person in the room, they're a CEO, but nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So do you show that empathy? Do you try to put yourself in other people's shoes? I don't think anyone comes to work going, today I'm going to try to mess up at work, right? I don't think people come to work trying to fail or do wrong. Mm-hmm. So you, leader, what systems did you put in place to train your employees, to set them up for success? That's an empathetic leader to me, right? And it kind of starts there, and you throw in competence and ability to communicate. You've built trust and respect, and all of those kinds of pieces make you a good business leader. Right. Can you plan? Did you write your business plan? Can you project out in the future? How well do you deal with crisis? When things start going bad, there are business disruptions. Do you fade, fall apart, scream and holler, or do you, in a very, focused manner, lead the company out of the hurricane, the hacking, whatever it is, right? So, back to your point. To me, the connection point is, military leadership to corporate leadership or nonprofit. It's leadership. It starts with us.
Well, now, America runs on businesses. Mm-hmm. And so many of us today we want to start a business. We're going through changes, challenges. What would you say to today's leaders in business?
That's just a tough environment right now. I know we don't. There's a lot going on right now, and it'll be going on for a while. So I know we don't want to necessarily just stamp today's date. But for today's businesses who are coming off of several crises simultaneous, right? The COVID virus itself and the impact, so unfortunate how many families have been impacted and lives lost, and that thing from this virus and our handling of this virus, and then add all of the unrest pieces that are happening at the same time, and we have to deal with that. We just do. It's a moment to have the courage to have the conversations to deal with what we're seeing in front of us right now, from the George Floyd or I mean, you name it, but there is unrest right now that we're going to have to deal with. And then, quite frankly, from our mitigation strategy with this virus, we're having a huge economic impact. I mean, we're just talking about how tough these last couple quarters were. So what would I say to today's business leaders? Number one is remain encouraged. Remain encouraged. This is the best country in the world, and it can be better. We should be able to just say that. This is the best country in the world, and it can be better. You run the best company in the world, and it can be better. So how do we make it better? How do we have the conversations? How do you, as a business leader, look ahead and go, all right, man, do I have to reimagine myself a little bit? Because what was working before may not be exactly the way it needs to work right now. My customers, my clients want something different. They want me to bring things to them because they're nervous about going out and doing it safely. My employees want something different. They want to feel safe in the environment. We've got to do the social distance. I mean, there are things we have to do to reimagine, to reinvent ourselves as business leaders. But remain encouraged. We can do it. We got to think our way through it. We got to plan our way through it. We have to have the tough conversations. But we'll be back. It's best country in the world. It can be better. Let's work on making it better. Best company in the world. Best region in the world. But it can be better.
From retired general.
Yep.
Corporate trainer, coach, consultant, business developer in today's world.
Yep.
What challenges you think that we need to overcome to make it through our business today?
Sure. I think that we've got to take on the culture change piece. I mean, this environment is demanding that we look at our diversity and inclusion and equity, and we look at ourselves, our companies, and we need to ask ourselves, are we living the values, beliefs that we say that our company DNA is made up of? I mean, we need to ask ourselves that. And do we have symbols around our company that might not be congruent with what we state as our values, our beliefs, our DNA? And we have corporate companies doing that. We've got NASCAR that said, we're not going to have the Confederate flag anymore because it's not a symbol of inclusivity and supports what we say is our values and DNA. So one challenge that I think business leaders have got to take on today is this culture change, this diversity, inclusion, equity piece that this moment demands. I think that the business leaders have got to make sure that we can navigate our way through the tough challenges of a divided political environment and an election year, quite frankly. Because choices that are being made, legislation, whatever it is that affects our companies, we've got to be able to navigate our way through that. We've got to see beyond the divisiveness and the political environment right now towards where do we really want to be in the future as a company. We've got to, I use the word reimagine and kind of, reinvent, readjust, our forecasts. That's another challenge that we've got right now, just because we need to be doing that all the time anyway, right? I mean, technology, Moore's Law, things are going to change. The environment changes. We have got to, as business leaders, be ready to change right along with it.
Last question. Retired General, what advice will you give to a young man or woman right now who says, I want to go to West Point?
Go to the academy?
Or I want to join the military.
Sure. Well, one, make sure you're doing it for yourself. Don't go to the academy, or don't try to go to the academy because someone thinks it's a great idea for you. Your parents went, someone thinks it's a super idea. You've got to go for yourself. You've got to be willing to go sacrifice. There's too much sacrifice to try to do it for anyone else. You've got to be willing to go sacrifice. It's going to be tough. I don't care if you're the smartest, the best athlete, the best military, whatever it is, best swimmer. There is something about the academy that's going to challenge you. And I saw the graduation this year, albeit spread out. Families weren't able to be there, and I was so happy to have my family, attend my it rained that day, but I was so happy to have my family at the graduation. The Academy is a great place. My recommendation is if you can get in, if you think you have what it takes to actually lead America's sons and daughters, if you think that's what you're pumping inside your heart, then what a rewarding experience. You'll come out the backside such a better person. You'll come out the backside so much stronger. That's the same with serving our military. I think we have an all-volunteer force, which makes it the best, the top. I'm not advocating a draft or anything like that, but I do think that everyone should serve this country in some way, shape, or form. Just a little bit of service. Military, or the Department of State doing some foreign service pieces, or some way you should do something bigger than yourself, and you should serve this great country of ours, and it'll give you an appreciation for those people that spend their whole life in service, and you'll feel good about it. You'll feel more committed to what this country is all about, and we need to get back to that anyway. We need to remember who we are. Best country in the world. It can be better.
Well, thank you so much, Retired General Ronald, for your service. Thank you for being on the podcast today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we'll be talking soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you for having me on, Manel. Best to you and your team. Seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.